Hello everybody, welcome to version 2 of my combat video. I obviously didn't understand the mechanics fully, but now that I've been to a kill event where I could test some things out and actually got attacked for once, so I'm really happy about that. Everybody's been ignoring me for the past 6 months. Basically, I haven't been attacked for real in a kill event since I started playing. So I finally got hit, and I got hit hard, and of course I had plenty of defense, so that gave me a chance to see how things work. So let's go with the too long didn't watch. Defense. Your heroes that you want in the order that you want them. Garradon, Caster, Alistair. Hospital capacity is important. You want to get that as high as you can. And if you don't have those heroes and you don't have a big hospital capacity or a strong army, I really suggest you Void Shield. A 24-hour Void Shield is 1,000 crystals, and if you're lucky enough to be on a server where they agree that PvP only happens on kill event, then you can easily get that many crystals for free. It just means you can't buy anything else, pretty much. Your offense heroes. These are my opinion. Alright? If you're going with the too long didn't watch, you're probably not starting the attack rally or joining. So these are the heroes that are going to do you good if you're joining an attack rally. Or joining a defense, for that matter. Hrenica, Shrike, Corsaro, Calgar, Adremus and Maya for their utility of having a cleanse. I didn't click on that. Stupid game. And Lysander. And I'll get into detail on that later. But that's your short. Now it's time for the long. Alright, let's go back to hospital capacity. Any defense action, the defender, their troops will first go to the hospital. They'll count as injured. Injured units cost less to heal than training new units. So your ways to increase your hospital capacity are going to be the apothecarian, the medical facility, hero appointment, Reclusiarch. You want Alistair in there because he gets the bonus hospital capacity. And every little bit you can get helps. And then, of course, Chief Apothecary. The stronger the heroes you have in here, the higher your hospital capacity. So that's always good. And, of course, research. Research is going to be the last significant way for you to get hospital capacity. Yeah. Enhanced medical gear. That gives you bonus capacity. You can get some from there. The second important reason you want to increase your hospital capacity is because of reserve squad. If you have a big army, you probably have more troops than you have hospital capacity. So you're probably fretting, well, if I get hit and I get zeroed, I'm going to permanently lose a lot of troops. Yes, but reserve squad will give you back your units that have died up to, where is it? I think it's 4 times. Yes, the max capacity of the reserve squad is 4 times out of the hospital. So whatever your hospital capacity is, you can multiply it by 5, and that is your maximum. And of course, you can see it right here in the Apothecarian. So if you lose more than that many units, they're going to permanently die. It's first going to put, my observation was it'll first put your highest levels. It won't put people in the hospital until the combat action is completed. And then it seems that it puts your highest tiers in the hospital first. And then I believe it's going to do the same for the reserve squad. So if you lose just tons of units, most likely your tier 1s are going to be the ones that are going to be permanently lost, you know. Anyway. And the important thing about reserve squad is you get them back for free, but you got to wait for them. So as long as your losses never exceed your hospital and reserve squad capacity, you're not going to lose troops. So first thing we need to go over is the concept of the base owner and the rally leader. So the base owner would be, in this case, me. This is my battle barge. I'm the owner. The rally leader is obviously the person that starts the rally. The important distinction here is that buffs and debuffs only work for the rally leader. For any other situation, only procs will work. This also includes garrisoning structures for Fort Obsidian, Void Supremacy, anything where it's a NPC structure, nobody's the owner, everybody's a joiner, so only procs work. Now, what is a proc? What is a buff? What is a debuff? Okay. A good hero to start with for that. I guess we'll go with Corsair. Why not? So a proc is anything that has a chance. In other words, it's not assured. When our army attacks, there is a chance, 10.2% chance. So the game has got to do a RNG roll, a dice roll, if you will. Anything where it's a chance, that's a proc, and it will always work. This is a buff. Increases the damage our army deals by 9.6%. And the very important thing about why I said chance is because there's some abilities, you'll look at them, and you'll think that's a proc, but it's not. Good example is Bolter Discipline. After taking damage, our army rebounds 24% of damage taken. You would think that because it's an action and reaction type thing, it would be a proc. You would be wrong. There's no chance. It doesn't say after taking damage there's a chance. No, after taking damage it always happens. So that's buff. Now buffs and debuffs, and why debuffs are better. Let's take Tellian. He's got a buff and a debuff. Kind of do the same thing, but one's a hell of a lot stronger than the other. Vengeful Wrath increases our army's attack speed by 20.4%. And Suppressive Fire decreases the enemy's attack speed by 16.8%. Of course, if I had that level 5, that would also say 20.4. So the reason why Suppressive Fire is much better than Vengeful Wrath is Vengeful Wrath only applies to you. It only applies to one army. So if you have a rally with 10 armies, only the rally leader gets that. So everybody else is still going to be attacking at regular speed. But Suppressive Fire applies to the entire enemy force. So if you're attacking a player and they have a garrison of 10 players, all 10 players are going to have their attack speed slowed down. That effectively increases the attack speed of your entire rally. So that's why a debuff is better. Another good example, I think it's Cronus. Yes, increases the damage taken by the enemy by 20.4%. That you're buffing your damage output of your entire rally. As where the one that says increases your damage only buffs you, and the rest of your rally misses out. Not every soldier attacks at the same speed. Your Vanguards and Primaris attack every second. Your Dreadnoughts, Predators, and Whirlwinds attack every 2 seconds. This means your vanguards and eradicators get 2 attacks for 1 of each of these. And when you start throwing in attack speed buffs and debuffs, you then start getting things where you got vanguards doing 3, 4, 5, however many attacks, while the enemy predators haven't even made their first. That can be brutal. There's ways to counter it. There's ways to counter almost everything. Dodge and accuracy is going to be the next thing I go over. So dodge is a proc, which automatically makes it pretty strong. However, it's a proc that means that an attack made against you does nothing. And of course, there's a bigger strength to that in that if an enemy army attacks you and you dodge the attack, the entire army misses, even though it might have only taken 1/10 of it to kill your unit. And this gets into the next thing of entities. So going back here, each of these is, in a sense, an entity. But the game will attack with units individually so that there's no wasted damage unless their attack is dodged. So each one of these units makes their own attack, has their own chance to proc something. In other words, anytime you have a hero with a proc that affects the enemy pretty broadly, you want to bring at least one of every unit, which is also why you want to keep every unit in stock. So this is my big defense. And, you know, my troop number looks scary, but that's like 400,000 of that is tier 1, so I wouldn't... meanwhile, their stuff was almost entirely high level. But still, it's pretty impressive, don't you think? But of course, because it was such a big battle and it lasted long, get to see plenty of interesting things. So turrets attack instantly. I suppose that is the only good thing about turrets. And of course, the turrets also have their own attack speeds, and they're similar to what they're countering. So a plasma cannon counters dreadnoughts and attacks every 2 seconds. However, the turrets attack instantly, 1 millisecond. So before the enemy even attacks, your turrets fire. So you can get rid of some dreadnoughts straight away. It's not much. I wouldn't really invest a lot in it, but it's something, right? Okay, so now they're doing their attacks, and they're attacking the players that have joined from my defense. Of course, they have dodge, mostly. Yeah, remove a debuff. So there's a Dreamus. His stuff procced. I guess Bruiser didn't have any. Yeah, he didn't have any dodge. Anyway, we go right here. Here we go. This is the example that I needed. And it was right here at the top. Now, it doesn't decide how many units it's going to attack with until it gets to the end. Now, Bloodhaven had 3 heroes with dodge. 10%, 10%, 12%. His dodge procced. And he took no damage. Now, even though it might have only taken, I don't know, a couple hundred eradicators to kill his 73 dreadnoughts, his entire stack counts as having attacked. So now his entire stack, which could have wiped out several of these junk stacks of dreadnoughts, have done nothing. They've just sat out their first turn. So that's the power of dodge. And again, but of course in this case it was one of his junk stacks. Criticals. Yeah, this is a bunch of gobbledygook. I wish I could export this to a text editor. So devs, if you're listening, just give me a button to save this as a text file so I could do something with this crap. So, moving on. Critical, Zealous Assault, and Grievous Wound. There are essentially 3 kinds of crits in this game. And Arenica is good for showing off all of it. So first you have your regular critical attack. And everybody gets that. Critical chance 10%. Your base critical chance is 10%. The damage is 120%. Every unit gets that. So every unit has a 10% base chance to do a critical bonus damage. Why did I back out? Then you have this ability called Zealous Assault. When our army attacks, there is a 30% chance to increase damage by 78%. So this is like a super crit. And then you have another one, Grievous Wound. When our army attacks, there's a 10% chance to cause a debuff, 62.4% damage rate on the target for 10 seconds. All 3 of these stack. You could, theoretically, get a critical, proc Zealous Assault, proc Grievous Wound, and just hit a home run. I've gone through a battle log and seen it proc both of those skills, but not with a critical. It might be out there somewhere. It's possible. Now, Grievous Wound, of course, if you're expecting a long fight, in other words, if you're attacking somebody that has enough forces to actually stop your attack, Grievous Wound is interesting. Remember, I said each unit gets its chance to proc. So if you bring one of each unit and they all get off their attacks, you actually stand a good chance of dropping this debuff on them. And then, of course, this debuff lasts 10 seconds, which is 10 turns for Vanguards and Primaris and 5 turns for the others. And it's a debuff on top of that. So then everybody in your rally is going to do that extra damage. So that can be pretty devastating. That's basically a mark of death for whatever stack of troops that lands on if it's going to be a long fight. Another thing interesting is stun. There's 2 heroes that have it right now. Corsaro and Calgar. When our army attacks, there is a 10% chance to disable the target from attacking for 1 second. And of course, this is outside of attack speed. So if the guy that Corsaro wallops has an attack speed buff, and they would normally attack every 0.6 seconds, well, they're going to sit out an entire second, so they're going to miss 1.5 turns. Pretty cool. That's why Corsaro and Calgar are pretty good picks for heroes to join a rally or defense with. Because, you know, they're procs. And the next thing to discuss is the cleanses. There's a couple of heroes that have it. Maya is the only one that can remove buffs from the enemy. I wanted to test this out for a build, but I don't have her high enough, and I don't have that skill high enough to really see how it pans out. And the other one is Adremus and Is it Praetes? This one of the blue guys also has it. It's combat medic. When our army attacks, there's a 20% chance to remove a debuff. Of course, from our side, I'm going to have to ask for clarification on that. I don't know if this only applies to your army or to your entire rally. The wording seems to imply from the entire rally. Anyway. Now we're going to come full circle back to Garriton, Caster, Alistair. And the reason why these guys need to be in your garrison slots and they need to stay there for the rest of their natural lives. That is Bolter Discipline. After taking damage, our army rebounds a percentage of the damage taken. So I'm going to go back to this big old battle log. Here we go. Look at those big numbers. Yeah, spoiler alert. So if an attack is not dodged, and this attack was not dodged, they only attack with enough units in that stack to kill the stack they're attacking. And of course, because they triggered Arenika's Zealous Assault, they attacked with fewer units than they would have otherwise. So the amount of damage they had to do to kill my entire stack was 493, 592 damage. Yeah, so anyway, Bolter Discipline is effectively additive. So I have reflected. Now, on paper you would say 70%. But there's an interesting rounding thing going on, because I actually ran this through a calculator. And you would think normal rounding, it would round on the half, you know, the 0.5. It seems to be rounding on the 0.1. So when it goes to the first decimal, if the first decimal is 0, it rounds down. If it's 1, it rounds up. So these two got rounded up. So I did 2 points of bonus damage because of how they calculate their rounding. But as you can see, every time they attack, bam, 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 they're just taking shit tons of damage, which is killing their units. So I lost my entire stack. They lost a lot more in terms of money. They lost more. From this comes the concept of a flesh wall, which I had brought up in previous videos. And of course, that's what they call it, is a flesh wall, because you're just having crap tons of units. Like here. Oh, and here's the annoying thing, and where I misspoke a lot in previous videos. So Bolter Discipline does not proc if you have a successful dodge, and Caster does have dodge, a whopping 13.8% right now for me. But whenever you dodge, I mean, it's nice, because now these units are going to be in the fight for another round, although that 20 Hellblasters wasn't going to do anything. But it's just tons of reflected damage. Now, the thing about Bolter Discipline, it's not going to make you win a defense. And that's not the point. The point is, even if they pop emergency operation so that they don't take any losses when they attack you, even though it's going to be cheaper than training new units, it's going to be very expensive to replace 70% of their army, or however much they lose attacking you. Now, a flesh wall. I'm getting off in the weeds here. This is where you just have an absurd amount of low levels. Like, these guys don't do anything but sit in my base waiting to get shot. Now, of course, the downside is my actual army size far exceeds my hospital and reserve squad capacity. Thankfully, that attack did not give me losses in excess of that, so I actually didn't lose anything but 40 million resources. That was rough, but I guess that's the price of 45 fragments, right? And the last thing I'm going to go over is attack order, for what it's worth. When units attack, they attack dreadnoughts first. So your dreadnoughts are your tanks in role-playing terms. And they're statistically made to be the tanks as well. You know, they get the most hit points and the highest defense. 298 out of 51. I don't know. What are predators? Predators got higher defense but lower hit points. Of course, that might be my research. I don't know. Predators are also tanks. Because they're tanks. Makes sense, right? Anyway. So your dreadnoughts get hit first. Your vanguards get hit after them. Then the Primaris. Then the predators. Then the whirlwinds. So the whirlwinds will be the last to die. So they do have some merit, I guess, in that regard. And each unit counters one or more units. Vanguards do extra damage to dreadnoughts. So they're tank killers. Primaris do extra damage to vanguards and predators. And then, of course, heroes are in there somewhere. It seems to me that melee heroes get fragged first, before dreadnoughts even. And I think that's about all I can cover. And it's a lot more accurate than it was last time. So to recap, your best defense is bolter discipline. Not because it'll win the defense, but it'll make it so too expensive to be worth attacking you. Even on kill event. I mean, the whales on my server flat out said they won't attack anybody who's got high level bolter discipline just because they don't want to pay to replace the losses. Now, it's not to say you won't get attacked. I got attacked. But then again, I went and I kicked somebody's teeth in, so they kind of had a good reason to attack me. And then for offense, if you're joining a defense or joining a rally, you want heroes that are high in procs. There's very good builds, and attacking is more about countering what the enemy has than anything else. So scouting or sending a single unit to die just to see what the enemy has is going to be your way forward. And maybe someday I'll make a video on the specifics of countering and builds and all of that. Though honestly, just pay attention to the battle logs when somebody in your alliance attacks or gets attacked and see what works, see what doesn't. So until next time, y'all have a good one.